Over the last 6 months, our TikTok agency has generated nearly 64 million in GMV, over 750,000 shoppable videos, and 3.4 billion views. We took all of that data and ran a detailed analysis to uncover GMV distributions, why quality is more important than ever right now, the optimal video length, because yes, there is actually a video length sweet spot, the shelf life of TikTok Shop videos, why understanding the GMV decay curve is key to scale, performance benchmarks so you can see how does your brand stack up against the competition, volume versus virality. Does more videos always lead to more GMV? Video versus live streaming and where you should put your focus on in 2025, and the overall 2025 brand playbook, your tactical roadmap based on 64 million in performance data. All right, so let's jump on in. First section is going to be GMV distribution. This is absolutely key to understanding if you are a new brand on TikTok Shop. You have to know that TikTok Shop is like the Pareto principle on steroids. The top 1% of all videos that we measured account for 80% of the GMV. So 1 out of every 100 videos will account for 80% of your GMV on average. The top 5% of videos account for 94% of GMV. The top 10% of videos, 97.5% of GMV. And the bottom 80% of videos make 0. So as a brand going into this, you have to understand that the vast majority of the videos that you and your affiliates put out there are going to earn 0. You are going to be striving for your content to reach that top 1%, even the top 0.01% that can really break through the noise. All right, so now let's take a look at the optimal video length. We had over 750,000 shoppable videos. We had the length of all of those videos, and we wanted to see, is there an optimal video length? And so we looked at short videos, medium length, and long videos. Now, short videos, on average, across the board, had higher views, but a lower GMV overall, which tells us that these struggle to convert. They also had the lowest RPM on average. Now, the medium length, the 30 to the 60 seconds, these had the best performance overall, the highest average GMV, the highest average RPMs, typically because these balance engagement and persuasion. Whereas the longer videos, over a minute long, they had lower reach, lower overall views. However, they did have the highest RPM. So on a per view basis, they could convert people better, but less GMV overall because these typically get lower views. So our key insight here, the optimal video length should be 30 to 60 seconds. In this analysis, we also wanted to take a look at how long do TikTok Shop videos last. You'll hear a lot of people say TikTok, they're very, very short earning. You hear a lot of people talk about SEO. Videos can last for months and months and months. And we wanted to see, what does the data actually say? What is the GMV decay curve? What does that actually look like? And so what we found, on average, 50% of the lifetime GMV is going to be earned in the first 7 to 10 days. Within the first 3 weeks, a video will typically earn 75 to 85% of its lifetime GMV. And after day 60, after 2 months, you should expect videos to earn less than 5% of the new sales. So with this, you're probably thinking, okay, TikTok is quick, short, the videos don't last for too long. But here's what's interesting. The average shoppable video, its revenue curve is highly front-loaded. However, if we take a look at any given day, what you'll see is that older content will account for over 50% of the daily GMV. Seems like it doesn't really make sense, but I'll try to explain this. So right now we're looking at a snapshot of 1 day in time. We picked, April 10th, 2025. And so what we can see on April 10th, just looking at all of our GMV on that day, what we found is only that 16% of that daily GMV came from videos that were posted within 7 days. Over half of the GMV on that day was driven by videos that were more than 1 month old, and a quarter of the GMV on that day came from videos that were 3 months old. So kind of tells a different story, right? If you look at this, you'll think, okay, you post a video, most of the GMV, it's going to come from days 7 through days 10, right? You're thinking, okay, short shelf life, these videos don't last too long. But then if we look at any given day, what we're seeing is that most of the GMV is coming from older videos. So how is this possible? It's the fact that top performing videos, they actually earn GMV for a very long time. So kind of going back to this Pareto principle here, 1% of your videos, they're going to earn 80% of your GMV. Well, it's also true that that top 1%, that top 5%, they actually have a much longer lifespan than the typical video. So what's different about these top 5% of videos? They continue selling steadily for 2 to 4 months. They have a much more gradual decline versus a sharp drop in average views. Now with these, the majority of revenue, it's still going to come in the first few weeks. The key difference is that these maintain meaningful sales for months and months afterwards. We often hear this from our creators too. They'll look at their daily earnings, and typically most of their daily earnings are going to come from months past. They had that 1 or 2 breakout video that just continues to earn for them. So the insight here is that the best 5% of videos not only earn more in week 1, but they're also going to sustain that engagement and sales for a much longer period of time. This is why it's likely that 50% of your daily revenue, it's going to come from videos that are older than 1 month. All right, let's talk performance benchmarks. We get these questions all the time. Hey, is my click-through rate all right? My RPMs, which numbers should I be looking at? So we took a look at over 750,000 videos, and what we found that the average RPM across those videos, somewhere between $15 and $20. Click-through rates, typically we're seeing 3 to 5% click-through rates. Click to order rates, 1 to 3%. Now, something to note is that the RPM varied the most out of all of these. This could be as low as 5, even lower, all the way up to over $100. And now the other thing to note is that the vast majority are going to significantly underperform, right? We're kind of seeing the Pareto principle here too. The top 1%, they're really going to drive these numbers up, while the vast majority of videos are going to underperform these numbers. However, we're just looking at the overall averages right here. Now let's take a look at creator posting volume. Kind of an interesting one. We get this question a lot like, hey, if my creators are posting like 30 videos a day, won't this wear out their audience? Typically we see brands, they just like to understand, the actual volume that's being posted on TikTok. And so what we did is we split out our creators into buckets based on how much GMV they're earning on a monthly basis. So the chart on the right, you'll see we have creators that are in the 0 to 1,000 GMV per month, the 1,000 to 5,000 GMV per month, 5,000 to 10,000, 10 to 50, so on and so forth. And so what we'll see here is that the creators that are making the most, these top creators, they're typically posting anywhere between 100 and 160 times per month. Of course, there are some that post significantly less, some significantly more, but that's the average that we're seeing. And so the insight here is that most high earning creators, they are also high volume creators. However, that's not always the reverse, right? Just because you post 100 a month or 160 times per month does not mean that you are going to earn more. We do also see a lot of low earners just spam videos and it doesn't really work out for them. But across the board, what we're seeing is that these top creators are posting 100, 150 videos per month. Another huge topic is around videos versus live streaming. You hear a lot of people say live streaming is the future. You need to focus everything on live streaming. So I find it super important to just give you a overview, right? Like how big actually is live streaming. So we took all of our data, all of our GMV data, all of our creators, and we took a look at what percent of GMV is being driven by live stream. Now, is this an accurate representation of all of TikTok? I think we're pretty close. I wouldn't be surprised if it was slightly different, but I would not expect it to be extremely different. And so with our network, we're seeing that live streams account for 7.2% of all GMV that's driven. And we took a look at the distribution as well. So the top 1% is driving 27.9% of GMV. Now, this is the top 1% of live streams. Very different from the distribution, where the top 1% of videos were driving 80% of GMV. Now, when we take a look at live stream RPMs, we see that it's almost $75. And when we looked at videos, that was somewhere between the 10, 15, $20 range. And the average live, one person, they go live, on average, they are earning $139 in GMV. So the insight here is that lives have a much higher RPM. They're typically more consistent, right? This distribution curve is much more flat, but they do make up a much smaller percent of total GMV. All right, so that data is great and all, but let's talk strategy. Now, first, I want to talk the playbook from last year. This is what a lot of people are used to, the 2024 playbook. And it really was get your product in the hands of as many affiliates as possible. This is the playbook that we were running all last year. Pretty much every brand, every agency that was doing well, this was the playbook. One of the brands, Skin Body, we ran this exact playbook. Took them from $0 to $1 million per month in just 8 weeks. Brand new company, brand new store, brand new everything. Just a really good product. Our strategy, let's get this in the hands of as many affiliates as possible, blow the whole thing up. Now, I'm going to walk you through why that's not really the playbook anymore. And you saw this as we walked through some of these data points. What we're realizing now is that quality is king. Quality is more important than ever. With every single video that's posted, you got to be aiming for that top 1%, because what we're seeing right now, there are more and more brands coming on board. There are more and more affiliates coming on board. And so it's getting harder to really break through. So right now, quality is the focus. We're seeing that brands need an intentional content strategy. It is no longer, let's throw the spaghetti against the wall and let's see what sticks, ship out as many samples as possible. Brands need to be working closely with creators to implement a strategy. And what we're seeing work right now is the hybrid payments model. That is where you are paying creators a little bit of cash upfront plus commission. And this will allow you to actually work closely with the creators to implement a strategy, to send them a creative brief. That's something that's very difficult to do on the affiliate only model. If you've been on TikTok Shop for a little while, you'll probably notice this. If you're doing just purely affiliates, meaning an affiliate comes to your store, they request a sample, they post a video, you'll see that it's very hard to implement a strategy because that creator, they don't have to listen to you. They're not going to get on a call. They're not going to join your Discord. All they owe you is a post, right? They get a free sample. They do a post. That's it. They don't really want to get a brief. They don't really want to hear you out. However, if you are paying that creator $500 a month for them to make 20 videos, now you can actually start the conversation, right? You can test things. You can iterate. You can implement a strategy. You can get buy-in with those creators, and you can even attract top talent even as a newer brand. This is another thing. The top affiliates, most of them are just promoting the top brands because they know that's what's going to convert the best. So if you do decide to work with creators on a hybrid payment model, you will be able to attract top affiliates even if your shop is somewhat new. And finally, this also allows you to get guaranteed Spark codes from those creators. Now, as you're working closely with your creators, the key is to test different angles to find the winning angles and then go all in and iterate on those top performers. Once you find a top 1% piece of content, the goal is to now take that piece of content and have all of your creators replicate that same style and continue to make small iterations on what's already working. And then finally, leveraging paid ads to scale. Now, let me walk through an example of the 2025 playbook in action. So here's a brand, Peach Slices. They joined our platform late last year, hired a handful of creators on our platform for the hybrid model, where they're paying them $300, $500, $1,000 upfront. That creator is going to post a certain amount of videos every single month. They worked closely with those creators on a strategy and quickly found the 1% content style and then just replicated that across the board. And so what that resulted in over $225,000 in GMV. And one individual creator, one of the ones that kind of cracked that 1% style, it was a $600 per month deal. And that individual creator earned them over 150,000 in GMV. Now, the other thing that we're seeing in 2025 is that ads are starting to play a much bigger role. We're seeing this across the board with our brands. We're also hearing a lot of this from our creators saying, hey, organic reach kind of down a little bit. But what I'm noticing is all my sales are coming from older videos that are converting that the brands are just running Spark ads on. So here's another brand that we work with. Here's Vital Source. We started working with them when they were at zero. 5, 6 months later, they were over 1 million per month on TikTok Shop. Our network alone has driven 2 million in sales for them. Now, here's the interesting thing I want to key in on. One individual video earned them over 500,000 in GMV across the last 6 months. And a lot of that is going to be coming from Spark ads. Like I mentioned before, you really need to focus on getting that top 1%, top 0.1% content because it's going to have a much longer shelf life and you'll be able to run Spark ads on this for a very long time. And so a key insight here is we anticipate ads playing a much bigger role as TikTok Shop matures. And so this 2025 strategy that we're seeing work right now, the focus on quality, the focus on working closely with creators, this is exactly why we built Creator Roster. We've noticed that the market has shifted to a hybrid model, and our platform makes that model transparent and efficient. Before, if you wanted to go and hire 20 creators, 50 creators, you basically had to wire money to a Discord and you had to know a guy who knew another guy and you couldn't really see what was going on. And so our goal was to build some transparency around that model. And so our platform, Creator Roster, it allows you to access our entire network of creators. You'll be able to see their exact GMV, their GMV per video, their estimated ROI, and their pricing so you can make data-driven hiring decisions. You'll see all of their performance. You'll be able to double down on the creators that are performing for you and let go of underperforming creators. This also allows you to speed up the process of finding these top 1% winning angles, and it gives you the ability to access top affiliates, even if you are a newer brand or a smaller shop on TikTok. And with this platform, we do have both self-served and managed packages available. Now, let me give you a quick demo of how it works. All right, so right now I am logged in as a brand. The first thing you'll want to do on the platform is just post a job that'll go out to the entire network. Once you post a job, you can see all of the creators on the platform. Now, you'll be able to filter and go in and see if you only want male creators, female creators, specific age ranges, specific categories. And then what you can do is take a look at all of their data. This is one of the most important parts. So you'll be able to see the GMV that they generated in the last 28 days, the GMV per video. So you're able to look at a bit more of an efficiency metric, right? For example, we have Mindy and Ashley here. Both of them had generated about 9,000 GMV in the past month. However, what we see in terms of efficiency, GMV per video, Ashley is about twice as efficient as Mindy. Just an example here. Then we'll also be able to see pricing, right? How much do we have to pay these creators to make a certain number of videos? And then the estimated ROI. So the estimated ROI, we're essentially just looking at a comparison between their GMV per video and their price per video. So that way you, as a business owner, an agency, a brand, you have all of the data that you need to make these decisions. And of course, you can go in, you can view all of their videos, you can see their content. Now, I'm just going to go, for example, let's say we wanted to hire Ashley here, right? Ashley did over 80,000 in GMV in the last 28 days. On average, every time she posts, she earns $264, and we can hire her for $300 a month for 5 videos. So I'm going to go in, I'm going to invite Ashley, and what I can do is I can make any offer here. So let's say I'm going to do 10 videos a month. We'll call it $400. And I'm even going to set this to auto renew. So if Ashley earns me 2,000 in GMV, I'm going to keep renewing this contract every single month. And then we can send the invite. Now you can also easily manage all of your creators from one central dashboard. You'll see exactly when you hired your creators, when their contract's going to end, how many videos or lives they've made for you, exactly how much GMV they've generated, and the ROI on a per creator basis. Now, like I mentioned earlier, we do have both self-serve and managed packages available. If you are interested in learning more, if you want to get a demo of the platform, there should be a link somewhere below this video to book a call. You can talk with someone on our team. And I hope you found this report super valuable. I'll see you guys on the next one.